The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched like a crystal cave above the swirling clouds of Nexus. Prime ships from dozens of worlds floated in perfect formation around the massive structure. Today was different. Today they would decide the fate of an entire species. High Chancellor Morden stood at the center of the hall. His blue skin gleamed under the artificial lights as he looked down at the humans below. The Valkyrie leader had waited years for this moment. His people controlled half the galaxy's trade routes, and humans kept getting in their way. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the defendant's circle. His military uniform was clean but wrinkled from the long journey. Beside him, Ambassador Elena Vasquez held a datapad with trembling hands. She had spent months preparing their defense, but the faces around them showed no mercy. The evidence is clear, Morden's voice echoed through the hall. Humans have broken 17 interstellar treaties. Their ships have entered forbidden zones. Their colonies spread like a disease across 3 star systems. The other council members nodded in agreement. Elder Voss of the Decanari clicked his mandibles. His insect-like race had fought humans over mining rights in the Outer Rim. They are too aggressive, he said. Too hungry for new worlds. They cannot be controlled. From the shadows came another voice. Hive Speaker Kix represented the collective minds of her species. Thousands of thoughts spoke as one through her voice. We have tried to reason with them. We have offered them designated worlds. They refuse to stay within boundaries. They always want more. Morrison stepped forward. We explore because that's what we do. We're not trying to hurt anyone. We just need room to grow. Laughter filled the hall, not the kind humans would recognize, but the clicking, humming, and whistling sounds that passed for amusement among the alien races. Room to grow, Morden repeated. Yes, that is exactly the problem. You grow without asking. You take without permission. You fight when we try to stop you. Ambassador Vasquez activated her datapad. Honorable Council members, humans have contributed much to galactic society. Our medical advances have saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Our engineering solutions have improved space travel for everyone. And yet, Elder Voss interrupted. Your military vessels patrol our borders. Your colonies mine resources that belong to established worlds. Your people refuse to follow the rules that keep peace in the galaxy. Morrison's jaw tightened. Those rules were made without us. We weren't part of the council when you divided up the galaxy among yourselves. The hall fell silent. Even the floating platforms stopped their gentle movement. Morden's eyes narrowed to thin slits. That is precisely why you are dangerous, the High Chancellor said slowly. You question authority. You refuse to accept your place. You think you deserve the same rights as species that have maintained order for thousands of years. Vasquez tried again. We ask only for fair treatment. Give us worlds we can settle without conflict. Let us trade freely with other species. We can follow rules that we help create. No. Hive Speaker Kix's collective voice buzzed with finality. We have seen what happens when humans are given choices. You choose expansion. You choose conflict. You choose to ignore consequences. The council members began to glow. Each species had their own way of showing agreement. The Valkyrius blew, the skin brightened, the Decanari's mandibles vibrated with harmonic frequency. Other aliens made sounds or movements that meant the same thing. They had already decided. Morden raised his staff, a crystal rod that pulsed within a light. The Galactic Council finds humanity guilty of repeated violations of interstellar law. The punishment is banishment. Morrison and Vasquez exchanged worried looks. Banishment usually meant exile to the edge of known space. Not pleasant, but survivable. Yup. Will be transported to Kepler 440C, Morden continued. This world has been classified as a Class 0 Deathworld. No known species has survived on its surface for more than one standard year. The blood drained from Vasquez's face. You're sending us there to die. We are giving you a world where you cannot threaten others, Elder Voss corrected. What you do with that opportunity is your choice. Morrison stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. This isn't justice. This is murder. This is mercy, Morden replied. The alternative was complete extinction. At least this way, you have a chance. The great hall began to empty as the council members returned to their ships. The judgment was final. There would be no appeals, no negotiations, no last-minute reprieves. Captain Torres received the orders aboard the colony ship New Horizon. 50,000 humans would be transported to their new prison. The best and brightest of their species, along with enough supplies to last 6 months. After that, they would be on their own. The journey took 3 weeks. During that time, Torres studied everything the ship's computers could tell them about Kepler 440C. The planet was larger than Earth. With crushing gravity, its atmosphere contained gases that would burn human lungs. Twin suns created temperature extremes that could kill in minutes, but the worst part was the life forms. The few automated probes that had survived long enough to send data showed creatures beyond nightmares, things that could phase through solid matter, underground monsters the size of buildings, storms that could tear apart metal. Why this planet? Dr. Marcus Reed asked as he reviewed the data. There are hundreds of dead worlds they could have chosen. Why pick one that's actively trying to kill anything that lands on it? Torres didn't have an answer, but as they approached the system, the ship's sensors detected something strange. Deep underground, massive energy signatures pulsed with regular rhythm. Something was down there. Something big. The Valkyrie escort ships maintained their distance. As the human fleet entered orbit, their orders were simple. Make sure the humans landed, then leave. No rescue missions would be allowed. No supply drops would be approved. Humanity would live or die based on their own abilities. Morrison stood on the bridge of New Horizon, looking down at the planet that would become their home or their grave. The surface looked angry, covered with dark clouds and flashing storms, but he had seen worse things during the war with the outer colonies. Humans had survived impossible odds before. All ships, prepare for landing, he ordered. Remember, they sent us here to die. Let's disappoint them. As the first shuttles launched toward the surface, Torres made one final log entry. The Galactic Council believes this is the end of humanity. They think they're watching our extinction, but they don't understand what humans do when we're pushed into a corner. The entry was transmitted to the escort ships before the orbital communication array was shut down. The Valkyrie commanders recorded it as the final words of a dying species. They had no way of knowing it was actually a promise. 6 months had passed since the first human boots touched the surface of Kepler 442c. The planet had already claimed 300 lives, but the remaining survivors were learning to fight back. Their underground settlement stretched through natural caves beneath a metallic rock. Dr. Marcus Reed walked through the main tunnel, checking on the various workstations. The air recyclers hummed constantly, filtering out the toxic gases that seeped through cracks in the stone. Temperatures rising again, said engineer Tom Bradley, wiping sweat from his forehead. The twin suns are reaching peak alignment. We'll hit 50 degrees Celsius on the surface today. Reed nodded and made notes on his tablet. How are the outer seals holding? Better than expected. The metallic rock actually helps insulate us, but we're still losing power faster than we can generate it. Above them, the planet raged with its daily fury. Crystalline storms swept across the landscape, carrying razor-sharp particles at hurricane speeds. The storms came every few hours, making surface work nearly impossible. But the humans had learned to predict the patterns. Marine Sergeant Lisa Kane suited up in the equipment bay. Her modified armor bore scratches and dents from countless encounters with the planet's hostile life forms. Today's mission was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. Harvest organs from a wraith nest. The wraiths were the planet's most dangerous predators. They looked like tall, thin shadows that could walk through solid matter. Their facial ability let them appear inside sealed buildings, reaching through walls to grab victims. But Kane had discovered something interesting about them, the organs that let them phase shift. She explained to her team, they generate a specific energy field. If we can harvest enough of them, Bradley thinks he can reverse engineer the technology. Private Roy Chen checked his weapon. How many wraiths in this nest? Thermal scans show at least 12 adults, maybe more juveniles hiding deeper in the structure. The team moved through the airlocks toward the surface. Even with full environmental suits, the planet's atmosphere made every breath feel like swallowing acid. The gravity pulled at them with crushing force, making each step an effort. The wraith nest sat in a valley between two hills of black stone. It looked like a twisted tree made of metal and bone, rising 30 meters into the toxic sky. Strange lights pulsed along its surface, and shadows moved within its hollow sections. Kane's team approached carefully. Wraiths hunted by sensing movement and body heat. The humans had learned to mask both by moving slowly and using cooling packs to lower their body temperature. The first wraith appeared without warning. One moment the path ahead was clear. The next moment a shadow figure stood directly in front of them. Its eyes glowed like white fire as it reached out with clawed hands. Kane fired her modified pulse rifle. The energy beam passed harmlessly through the creature's phased form. But she had expected this. The real weapon was the electromagnetic net that followed the beam. It disrupted the wraith's phase field, forcing it back into solid form, now vulnerable. The creature shrieked as Kane's team opened fire with conventional weapons. The wraith fell, its body already beginning to dissolve. They had minutes to harvest the phase organs before they became useless. Got it, Chen said, sealing the organs in a containment unit. This should give Bradley enough material to work with. The nest erupted with activity. More wraiths emerged, phasing through the walls in attack formation. Kane's team ran for the ridgeline, using their electromagnetic disruptors to keep the creatures at bay. Back in Haven, Bradley examined the harvested organs under his improvised laboratory equipment. Fascinating, he muttered. The cellular structure actually bends space-time on a quantum level. No wonder they can phase through matter. Dr. Reed joined him in the lab. Can we use it? Maybe, but I need more data about how the planet's energy systems work. These readings don't match anything in our databases. Reed pulled up his geological surveys on the main screen. The planet's core isn't natural. Tom, I've been studying the seismic data for months. There's a massive artificial structure down there, at least 5 kilometers in diameter. Bradley stopped his work and stared at the data. Artificial? You mean someone built something inside the planet? Not just built, it's still active. Those energy signatures we detected from orbit, they're coming from whatever is down there. And, Tom, Reed's voice dropped to a whisper. I think it's responding to us. The two scientists worked through the night, comparing energy patterns from the harvested wraith organs with the readings from deep underground. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The same quantum frequencies appeared in both datasets. The wraiths aren't native to this planet, Reed realized. They're connected to whatever's in the core, part of the same system. Bradley's hands shook as he processed the implications. If that's true, then everything on this planet might be artificial. The tunnelers, the storms, even the toxic atmosphere. It's all part of some massive machine. Outside, the daily crystal storm began to fade. Kane returned with her team, carrying more harvested materials and disturbing news. We found something else out there, she reported. Wreckage. Ships that crashed decades ago, maybe longer. The metal has markings I don't recognize. She showed them pieces of hull plating covered in strange symbols. Reed examined them under magnification while Bradley ran composition analysis. This isn't human technology, Reed said. But it's not from any of the Council species either. The molecular structure is completely different. Bradley's scanner beeped with completed results. The metal contains the same quantum signatures we found in the wraith organs. Whoever built these ships, they were connected to the planetary system. Kane cleaned her weapon while they talked. How many ships do you think are out there? From what I could see through the storms, dozens, maybe hundreds. All crashed, all stripped clean by scavengers or time. Reed felt a chill that had nothing to do with the underground temperature. The Galactic Council said no species had survived here for more than a year, but they never said how many species they'd sent here. The implication hung in the air like toxic gas. Kepler 442c wasn't just a death world, it was an execution ground. For centuries, maybe longer, the Council had been sending unwanted species here to die. Bradley's equipment suddenly came alive with activity. Energy readings spiked across all frequencies as something deep in the planet's core responded to their presence. The readings were unlike anything they had seen before. It knows we're here, he whispered. Whatever's down there, it's aware of us. Reed checked the settlement's power systems. They were running at levels that should have been impossible with their limited equipment. Somehow, energy was flowing into their systems from an unknown source. We need to go deeper, Reed decided. If we're going to survive on this planet, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Kane nodded grimly. Then we'd better be ready for whatever we find down there. Fleet Admiral Zethka stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching Kepler 442c grow larger on the viewing screen. 12 research vessels followed behind him, filled with the Valkyrie's best scientists. They had come to study the energy readings and collect whatever valuable minerals they could find. Any signs of human activity? He asked his sensor officer. Nothing, Admiral. The surface appears dead, but the energy signatures are stronger than ever. Something down there is generating massive power. Zethka smiled. The Galactic Council had been right to use this planet as an execution ground. Now they could harvest its resources without worrying about human interference. Science Commander Praxel prepared the first landing team. 12 scientists, 20 soldiers, full environmental gear. We'll establish a research base near the strongest energy readings. What about the human settlement? Asked one of the younger officers. If any humans survived, they'll be desperate and weak. We'll offer them rescue in exchange for information about what they've found. The Valkyrie landing party descended through the toxic atmosphere, their advanced ships easily handling the crystalline storms. They landed near what their sensors showed as the human settlement of Haven. But when they reached the location, they found only empty caves and abandoned equipment. The humans were gone, but their technology was still running. Lights flickered in the tunnels, and air recyclers hummed with steady power. "Where is everyone?" Praxel wondered aloud. "The power systems are active, but there's no one here." His team explored deeper into the underground complex. The human construction was crude but effective. They had carved living spaces from solid rock and created workshops using salvaged materials. But most interesting were the energy conduits that ran through every tunnel. "These power lines," one of the Valkyrie scientists observed, "they're not connected to any generator we can find. The energy is coming from somewhere else." Praxel's scanner detected movement in the deeper tunnels. Life signs faint, but definitely there. "Let's investigate." They followed the readings through a maze of passages that seemed to go on forever. The walls were covered with strange markings that looked both human and alien. The air grew warmer as they descended, and their equipment began registering unusual energy patterns. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The Valkyrie team stopped in amazement. The space was filled with machinery that pulsed with inner light, but the technology was unlike anything they had ever seen. It seemed to blend organic and mechanical elements in impossible ways. Standing in the center of the chamber was Commander Jake Morrison, but he was no longer entirely human. Morrison turned to face them, and Praxel stepped backward in shock. The human's eyes glowed with the same light as the machinery around him. His skin had taken on a metallic sheen, and energy crackled between his fingers. "Welcome to our world," Morrison said, his voice carrying harmonics that made the Valkyrie's teeth ache. "We've been expecting you." More figures emerged from the shadows: Dr. Reed, Engineer Bradley, Sergeant Kane, and dozens of other humans. But they were all changed. Enhanced, their movements were too quick, too precise. They looked like predators who had found a perfect hunting ground. "What have you done to yourselves?" Praxel whispered. Reed stepped forward, data streaming across, his eyes like a living computer display. "We've adapted. The planetary system doesn't just kill intruders, it tests them. Those who prove worthy become part of something greater." The Valkyrie soldiers raised their weapons, but Kane moved faster than their eyes could follow. In seconds, their guns were dismantled and scattered across the chamber floor. She hadn't even touched them. "The technology responds to human neural patterns," Bradley explained, his voice mixed with electronic tones. "Our chaotic thought processes create resonance with the quantum systems. We can interface directly with the planetary consciousness." Morrison gestured to the walls around them. "This chamber is just the beginning. The entire planet is a machine, built by a race that died out millions of years ago. They created the ultimate test for any species that might find this world." "Most species fail," Reed continued. "They fight the planet instead of learning from it. They try to impose their will instead of finding harmony. That's why their ships crash and their colonies fail." Praxel tried to contact his ship, but his communication device was dead. "What do you want from us?" "Information," Morrison replied. "About the other species the Council has sent here. About the real reason they choose this planet as an execution ground." The chamber walls came alive with images. Holographic displays showed dozens of different alien species, all struggling and dying on the planet's surface. Ship after ship crashed or was torn apart by the hostile environment. "The Council doesn't just want to eliminate troublesome species," Kane said, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to move through the displays like a dancer. "They want to study how each species dies. This planet is their laboratory." Bradley's connection to the planetary systems deepened, and more information flowed through his consciousness. "Every species that lands here becomes part of the experiment. Their genetic patterns, their technology, their cultural knowledge, all of it gets absorbed into the planetary database." "But humans are different," Reed added. "Instead of being consumed by the system, we've learned to control it. We've become the first species to pass the ultimate test." The Valkyrie team found themselves surrounded by enhanced humans who moved within human grace. Their advanced technology seemed primitive compared to the biomechanical fusion the humans had achieved. Morrison approached Praxel, his glowing eyes reflecting depths of knowledge that no single mind should contain. "Your people made a mistake when they brought us here. They thought they were sending us to die in isolation. Instead, they gave us the tools to become something far more dangerous than we ever were before. The planet's defenses are under our control now," Kane demonstrated by calling forth a pack of wraiths that phased through the chamber walls. The creatures that had once hunted humans now obeyed their commands. Like trained animals, Bradley's enhanced mind interfaced with systems throughout the underground complex. "We can manipulate gravity, control atmospheric conditions, and direct the native life forms. This Deathworld has become our weapon. The Valkyrie landing party realized they were no longer explorers or rescuers. They were prisoners, captured by humans who had evolved beyond their original limitations. "You can't leave," Reed informed them, his voice carrying certainty that came from direct connection to the planetary systems. "Your ships are being taken care of as we speak." High above them, the remaining Valkyrie vessels found their systems failing one by one. The enhanced humans had learned to project their influence beyond the planet's surface, using the ancient technology to disable any ship that came too close. Morrison's transformed features showed no mercy as he looked at the captured Valkyrie. "Team, tell us everything about the Council's plans. Help us understand why they've been using this planet as a graveyard for so long." And then, Kane added with a smile that showed too many teeth, "We'll show you how humans say goodbye." High Chancellor Mordaunt stood before the Emergency Council session, his blue skin pale with worry. The reports from the Kepler 442c system made no sense. 12 Valkyrie research ships had simply vanished without sending any distress signals. "Admiral Zethka was one of our best commanders," he told the assembled representatives. "His ships were equipped with the most advanced technology. How could they all disappear at once?" Elder Voss clicked his mandibles nervously. "Perhaps the planet's natural hazards were more dangerous than we calculated." The energy readings suggested massive storms. No Hive speaker Kix's collective voice buzzed with certainty. "Our sensors detected the ships entering orbit safely. They were there one day, gone the next. This was not an accident." Battle Commander Grix of the Decanari War Fleet stepped forward. His insect-like frame was covered in military honors from a dozen campaigns. "If humans somehow survived and captured our ships, they must be eliminated before they become a larger threat." Mordaunt wanted to dismiss the idea, but the evidence was troubling. "Primitive humans cannot defeat advanced Valkyrie technology. It's impossible." "Then explain the disappearances," Kix demanded. "Our collective minds have analyzed every possibility. Only hostile action makes sense." The debate was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The main screen flickered to life, showing a figure that made the council members recoil in shock. It was Dr. Reed, but transformed beyond recognition. His eyes glowed with unnatural light, and his voice carried harmonics that made their communication equipment crackle. "Greetings, Galactic Council," he said. "We need to talk." The image showed him standing in what looked like a massive control room filled with alien technology. Other enhanced humans moved in the background, their movements too fluid and precise to be entirely organic. "You're dead," Mordaunt whispered. "We sent you to a death world. You sent us to school," Reed replied. "We learned things you never imagined. About this planet, about the species you've been sending here for centuries, about the real purpose of your so-called justice." The screen filled with images of crashed ships and alien skeletons. Dozens of different species, all victims of the Council's judgment. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. "You've been using Kepler 442c as a testing ground," Reed continued, "studying how different species die, collecting their genetic material and technology, building a database of galactic life forms." Elder Voss tried to deny it, but his "That you betrayed his fear. These accusations are impossible. We would never." "We have the data," Reed interrupted. "Extracted from the planetary systems, every species you've sent here, every experiment you've conducted, every lie you've told your own people." The transmission cut out, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Before anyone could speak, alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Incoming ships," a technician reported. "Multiple contacts approaching from the Kepler system." "Impossible," Battle Commander Grix said. "Our sensors show no ship signatures." "Because they're not using conventional technology," the technician replied, his voice shaking. "They're invisible to our detection systems." The first attack came without warning. Orbital Defense Platform 7 simply exploded, its debris raining down on the gas giant's upper atmosphere. No weapons fire was detected, no enemy ships were visible. But the massive station was gone. "Battle stations," Grix ordered. "Deploy all available fleets." But the enemy was already among them. Valkyrie patrol ships began reporting system failures and crew disappearances. Something was moving through their formations like a ghost, striking without being seen. On the council station, emergency lights flashed as power systems failed. The artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, throwing delegates to the floor. Through the chaos, they could hear something moving in the corridors. Sergeant Kane phased through the outer hull, her enhanced body adapted to survive in the vacuum of space. Behind her came a squad of humans who moved like living shadows, using wraith biotechnology to walk through solid matter. They appeared in the council chamber like nightmares made real. Their modified bodies combined human intelligence with alien capabilities, creating something that had never existed before in the galaxy. "Surrender," Kane said simply. "Your fleets are already defeated." Morden backed away, his hands shaking. "This is impossible. You're just humans, primitive creatures from a minor world." "We were," Kane agreed. "But you taught us what we could become." Through the chamber's windows they could see the battle raging outside. Valkyrie warships fired blindly at enemies they couldn't detect, while human-controlled vessels appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Commander Morrison's voice echoed through the station's communication system. "Every species you sent to that planet died because they tried to fight it. We survived because we learned to work with it." The council members huddled together as more enhanced humans entered the chamber. These beings moved with perfect coordination, their minds connected through the planetary network they had mastered. The ancient builders left their technology as a test. Engineer Bradley explained, his voice carrying electronic harmonics. "They wanted to see if any species could prove worthy of inheriting their knowledge. Most species failed because they approached the planet with preconceived ideas," Dr. Reed added. "They tried to impose their will instead of adapting to new possibilities. But humans," Morrison continued, "we've always been good at adapting, at finding new ways to survive, at becoming something more than we were." Battle Commander Grix tried to activate his emergency beacon, but his equipment was dead. "What do you want?" "Justice," Kane replied. "Real justice. Not the kind where you decide who lives and who dies based on your own interests." The enhanced humans began interfacing with the station's systems, their consciousness flowing through the electronic networks like living data. They absorbed information about council operations, military deployments, and hidden facilities. "Know about the other testing worlds," Reed said. 17 different planets where you've conducted experiments on unwilling species. All of them will be liberated." "We know about the genetic databases," Bradley added. "The weapons research, the plans to eliminate any species that might challenge council authority." Morrison's presence filled the chamber even though he remained on the planet's surface. "You created us to be monsters. Now we'll show you what monsters can do." The station's defenses crumbled as human-controlled systems turned against their creators. Automated weapons targeted council ships while defense platforms broadcast surrender signals. "Your empire is built on lies and murder," Kane said, her enhanced senses detecting the fear pheromones of every alien in the room. "We're going to tear it down." Elder Voss tried to speak, but his words came out as terrified clicks. The humans had become something beyond his understanding, combining technology and biology in ways that defied natural law. "This is just the beginning," Morrison's voice promised. "Every world you control will learn the truth. Every species you've repressed will be free to choose their own destiny." The Great Council Chamber, once the center of galactic power, had become a prison for its former masters. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked different now. The floating platforms had been lowered to the floor, and the crystal walls showed cracks from the battle. High Chancellor Morden sat in chains made of living metal that adapted to prevent any escape attempt. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked into the chamber, but she was no longer the desperate diplomat who had pleaded for humanity's survival. Her enhanced form moved with fluid grace, and her eyes held the accumulated knowledge of the ancient planetary systems. "The tables have turned," she said, looking at the former council members who now occupied the defendant's circle. "Today, you face judgment for crimes against the galaxy." Elder Voss tried to speak, but his voice came out as terrified clicks. The other alien representatives huddled together, their various forms of communication reduced to whispers and frightened sounds. "For over 3 centuries," Vasquez continued, "you have used your power to eliminate species that threatened your control. You called it justice, but it was murder." The evidence appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Data recovered from 17 different Deathworlds showed the true scope of the Council's crimes. Hundreds of species had been sent to die on hostile planets, their genetic material and technology harvested for Council research. The Kethmori were sent to an ice world because they developed faster-than-light communication, Dr. Reed said, as he entered the chamber. His transformed appearance made several aliens whimper with fear. They could have revolutionized galactic society, but their technology threatened Council information control. The Xanthari were banished to a radiation planet, Engineer Bradley added, his voice carrying electronic harmonics. Their crime was developing medical treatments that could extend lifespans beyond Council regulations. The Plixani died on a water world, Sergeant Kane reported. They had created agricultural techniques that could feed entire systems without relying on Council trade routes. Each revelation struck the former council members like physical blows. Their empire had been built on the systematic destruction of innovation and progress. Commander Morrison's presence filled the chamber, even though he remained connected to the planetary network on Kepler 442c. Every species you eliminated was guilty of the same crime. They dared to grow beyond the limitations you set for them. We maintained. Order Morden finally managed to speak. The galaxy needs structure, rules, boundaries. Without control, there would be chaos. Your kind of order required mass murder, Vasquez replied. You created a system where advancement was punishable by death. The chamber doors opened as representatives from dozens of species entered. These were survivors from worlds the Council thought was safely under control. But the truth about the Deathworld experiments had spread through underground networks, and rebellion was growing across the galaxy. The Vikanari colonies on Rigel 7 have declared independence, one representative reported. They're demanding Battle Commander Grix be handed over for trial. The Velkari trade guilds are refusing to follow council directives, another added. Their own people are questioning centuries of official history. Even the Hive Speaker's collective consciousness is fracturing, a third voice said. Individual minds are breaking away from Kix's control. Morrison's enhanced awareness monitored communication channels across the galaxy. The carefully maintained web of council control was collapsing as species after species learned the truth about their supposed protectors. This is what happens when lies are exposed, he said. Your empire was held together by fear and ignorance. Remove those, and nothing remains. But the humans weren't finished. The real demonstration of their power came when Kepler 442c itself entered the system. The planet moved through space like a living ship, its surface writhing with controlled energy. The ancient technology that had once seemed like a death trap now served as humanity's ultimate weapon. Impossible, Elder Voss whispered. Planets cannot move. They cannot be controlled. The original builders designed it as a mobile testing facility, Reed explained. They wanted to study different species across the galaxy. We've simply learned to pilot their creation. The planet took position between the gas giant and its largest moon, demonstrating gravitational control that defied conventional physics. Massive energy beams lanced out from its surface, carefully destroying derelict stations and abandoned facilities. Every secret laboratory, Bradley said. Every hidden research facility. Every weapon designed to maintain council supremacy, or dismantling your entire infrastructure. Kane coordinated with human teams across the galaxy. Enhanced soldiers appeared on Council worlds, moving through defenses like ghosts, but they weren't there to conquer, they were there to liberate. We're freeing the genetic databases, she reported. Every species you thought you had eliminated, their knowledge, their culture, their potential contributions to galactic society. All of it will be returned to the survivors. The weapon stockpiles are being destroyed, another human added. No one will ever again have the power to erase entire civilizations. The trade monopolies are being broken, Bradley continued. Resources will be distributed fairly, not hoarded by council elites. Vasquez approached the chained council members with a document written in dozens of different languages. Your sentence is exile, not to a death world, but to a paradise planet, where you can live out your remaining years in comfort. That's more mercy than you showed any of the species you murdered, Morrison's voice added. Consider it a final lesson in how justice should work. Morden looked up with desperate eyes. You cannot rule the galaxy, or just one species among thousands. We're not going to rule anything, Vasquez smiled. We're going to make sure no one ever rules everything again. The enhanced humans began implementing their plan for galactic government. Instead of a centralized council, they established a network of independent systems connected by voluntary cooperation. Species could choose their own paths without fear of elimination. The ancient builders left us more than just technology, Reed explained to the gathered representatives. They left us the knowledge of what happens when any single group gains too much power. They destroyed themselves through their own experiments, Bradley added. We won't repeat their mistakes. Kane looked out at the stars through the repaired crystal walls. Humanity will explore new worlds, but will do it as partners with other species, not as conquerors. The transformation was complete. The species that had been sent to die in isolation had become the galaxy's liberators. The prisoners had become the teachers. The condemned had become the judges. Morrison's final words echoed through every communication channel in known space. You wanted to see what monsters looked like. Instead, you discovered what heroes can become when they refuse to surrender hope. The Galactic Council was history. In its place rose something new, a galaxy where growth and progress was celebrated, not punished, where diversity was strength, not threat. where the future belonged to all species, not just the ones in power. The Deathworld that was meant to be humanity's grave had become the birthplace of galactic freedom.